The new paper on Nicobarese by Gneshwar Chaube and his colleagues in Benares, Bern and beyond sheds a dazzling new light on the population prehistory of the Andaman Sea and of the Nicobarese archipelago in particular, but also on mainland and insular Southeast Asia and on the dispersal of the Austroasiatic language family. The close genetic affinity that we found between Monic and Nicobarese language communities provides a molecular genetic correlate for the Nico-Monic branch of the Austroasiatic language family that was identified by Gérard Diflot, the famous French linguist who unfortunately died last year, in his linguistic phylogeny of the language family. If only he had been here, the findings that we have really corroborated his Austroasiatic linguistic phylogeny, his language family tree for this particular language family, but also many of his other theories and reconstructions for the language family and its prehistory. Proto-Aslian speakers spread into the Malay Peninsula, where they encountered and linguistically assimilated Negrito populations and established the language communities that we call Jahaic, Senoic, and Semalaic, three subgroups of Austroasiatic. The study also shows that 7,000 years ago, a maritime dispersal of Proto-Nico-Monic speakers from the Tenasserim and from the Isthmus of Kra set out across the sea and settled the Nicobar Islands and became the linguistic ancestors of the modern Nicobarese languages. One of these Nicobarese languages, Shompen, is a bit different than the other Nicobarese languages and represents a distinct offshoot within the Nicobarese branch. And Gérard Diflot is the one who unraveled that, showing that the differences are due to systematic sound shift. But the Shompen are also different in that once they colonized the Great Nicobar Island, they moved into the interior and lived in the heavily forested interior, these jungles, and reverted to a hunter-gatherer lifestyle and also to vegiculture as an additional subsistence strategy. The linguistic ancestors of Munda populations, our study shows, migrated westward from mainland Southeast Asia into the Indian subcontinent a little more than 5,000 years ago, giving rise to the Korku in central western India and all of the Munda language communities in central eastern India, the Chota Nagpur, as it used to be called, parts now of Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. And our study has a number of surprising findings that are really outside of the realm of the Nicobar Islands. We can explain the anomaly of element order in the Khmuic languages. Khmuic languages on mainland Southeast Asia are trans-Himalayan languages, but they have an aberrant or anomalous element order. And this is due to the fact that we can identify them as Austroasiatics who adopted Tibeto-Burman or trans-Himalayan speech. They were assimilated by early trans-Himalayan speakers, and that's why their element order is very different. This is a very similar situation to what we find in Sinitic. Sinitic is another branch of the trans-Himalayan language family which gave rise to the Chinese languages, and these two have an anomalous word order because, like with Khmuic, the indigenous people of the Yellow River Basin were not trans-Himalayan, were not Tibeto-Burman, and it is a Tibeto-Burman or trans-Himalayan group that moved in, linguistically assimilated the original denizens of the Yellow River Basin, and this gave rise to Chinese, the Sinitic languages, a hallmark of these languages being creoloid structural characteristics. Another second dazzling finding that is not really directly related to the Nicobar Islands is that some mainland Southeast Asian populations, such as the Palangwa and the Monic language communities, they represent Austroasiatic groups, but we find that because many ethnographers have said they look different than some other Austroasiatic groups. Well, we find that they have undergone a considerable admixture with the trans-Himalayan ancestral component, which corroborates what ethnographers, physical anthropologists have been observing in terms of phenotypical perceptions for over a century. The third, and perhaps the most amazing finding, is that we find and identify an Austroasiatic ancestral component in populations of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo, which provides molecular genetic corroboration for the theories of ethnographers and linguists from the late 19th and early 20th century about an Austroasiatic substrate in populations such as the Batak, the Mentawai, the Sunda, the Javanese, and the Dayak. These theories having been advanced by Robert van Heine-Gelderen, Charles Otto Blagden, Walter William Skeet, and most famously Gérard Duflot, who died again last year and was unable to see all of this in this marvelous new study. And of course also Sander Adelaar, another linguist who did this work in the Indonesian archipelago. So linguistic work that we've now corroborated with population genetics. So thanks to Ganeshwar Chaubey and his team in Benares, Bern and beyond for all of these wonderful new insights.